Welcome to the Common Man podcast. Today's guest is Matt Tack. Thank you, Matt, for joining today. I appreciate your flexibility and your schedule, and just grateful that you're here, man.
No, man, super grateful, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Before we get into full field and nootropics and what you do, I'd like to get started just to hear about your story. Tell me where you came from and how you got into this, what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Story. Ed Milet always says, "Facts tell, stories sell," and stories are just a massive part of everything. I come from just an amazing family growing up, and honestly, I was a baller. I loved playing basketball. That was my game. But things didn't work out. Got a few injuries in high school. Was getting looked at by a few colleges. And that kind of navigated into college where I played intramural basketball. But I always had that thing, that itch of like that drive of like, what if, what did I leave on the table? And so I held that as a crutch for a number of years. Honestly, I went through even a state of depression just in my mid-20s and really like, what did I leave? Why didn't I attack that a little bit more? And so I met my wife in high school, which I love her to death. But she was, she stuck close to me in a season that she honestly really shouldn't have. But we got married in my late 20s. So I was about 26 when I married my wife. Really wasn't in a good headspace at all. I think one of the things, even after like marrying my wife, I like was honest with her. I was like, I wasn't actually ready to marry you that day. And it actually pains her for me to even say that. But I was just like, I was honest with her. That wasn't the headspace I was in. But to be honest with you, just all glory to God of what that transformed me from going through that season and kind of attacking life. But I became an entrepreneur at 28. I started up an Airbnb company. And so kind of grew that on the management side of things. And then I grew up a couple listings and I flipped a couple houses. And that's how I eventually like evolved and kind of got into real estate. And that was kind of the entrepreneurial itch that I had. I've evolved since then. I just turned 39 last week. So I've evolved since then and have kind of got into a number of things. So I invest in real estate. That is one thing I do, but specifically my brand is health and wellness, man. One of the mottos that my partner and I have is we're going to make America fit again. And that's one of the things, that's our mission, is to just really anybody that's willing to listen. We want them to live the most optimized lifestyle that they possibly can live. So, I went through a series of kind of ups and downs, even in real estate, did fairly well in terms of like deal flow, had a real estate investment company for a while. But since I've transitioned predominantly full time over to health and wellness and just education. So we're coaching and, my partner and I have a clinic in Tampa where we focus on functional medicine specifically. So he's a doctor of chiropractic. So if you're ever in Tampa, check out Alessi Functional Health. He's the best dude in the game. So he's just amazing. We have an amazing staff there. And then, that's predominantly what we're doing full time. So we have the Full Field Optimizers program right now, where we have guys that are typically in their 30s and 40s. If not even a little bit older. We got one guy that's 59 looking to get optimized. And so we just guide them through all nutritional training, how you build muscle for longevity. So we program that all into our app. And so that's current state where I'm at. And that's kind of the narrative of the story. I went through some real lows, but I never want to go back there again. And, my motto is, man, if I got today and I'm breathing and I'm walking, then I'm blessed. So that's my motto.
Man, that sounds so good. And I'd love to get into, if you can share some tips on building muscle and all those things. But I'm interested in, you said you had some real lows. I'm interested, would you be willing to tackle those things and kind of talk about what you learned from those? And for maybe a young 18, 20-year-old in college, graduated high school, doesn't know, maybe they're in their lowest low, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, man. And I appreciate you asking. Yeah. What I do is a lot of reflecting. So I was in a spiritual based mastermind about 5 or 6 years ago, and we had to go back, and we had to grab onto some things that, like, we just had to relinquish control of and be like, that wasn't there to serve me. Sucks that it happened, but like, where's it going now? So growing up, I'll be honest and like super vulnerable. I was just like a super awkward kid, in like junior high, and I feel like high school. I was a really good basketball player, but I went from this like small Christian day school to a public school because I was excelling in basketball, and I just never truly fit in. I just like wasn't. I was a misfit. I felt like I would always be in the gym, shooting, doing whatever, and then that translated to, I don't know, like really what, but it was always like basketball was my only thing. Like I always had a ball in my hands. And I lifted weights. Actually, at like 16, I was like, it was the first time I was introduced in the weight room, and I feel like the weight room was like kind of the pinnacle of that turning point. And that's why I'm so focused right now on that piece, because how it can help people. But in the lowest of lows, I would say that like one of the major like turning points in that was my willingness still to be coached, right? To be coachable. And I got coached through books, right? So many times where people say, I need a mentor, I need somebody to do it. Well, there's not always that time where someone is going to reach out to you. You know what I mean? Like, you might not have access to that person. And we live in this social world where like there's so many people and so many voices, but very few like gurus or like people out there, choose to write a book. And when like there's a good book, or you ask people, hey, what's one good book I could read? A book can change like the perspective on how you operate. And so I got into reading in my late 20s, like an insane amount. Like, I just love reading and absorbing information. But Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, I think, is one of those books that it'll always be there. It's like, the Bible, then Think and Grow Rich, because it's such a mindset book. In terms of how we interpret life and how we interpret so many things. I mean, it literally covers like how you handle sex and how you can generate that towards like positive thinking. Think and Grow Rich by Nicole. Outwitting the Devil is a phenomenal one too. I have so many books that I could recommend, but if there's just one of those things of you focus, like what that small improvement is literally to start educating your mind, right? Because you have to capture the negative thoughts, so quickly. And then you got to put 5 to even 10 more positive thoughts in there that are going to move you in the right direction. And books give you knowledge. And when you can speak with a level of authority, then as you read more books and as you absorb more information, it can only benefit you. So like, if you don't have access to like a mentor right off the bat, but I mean, I know there's a lot of mentors out there, but you also got to be careful. But there's so many books that you can just grab and read. I read the Bible for discernment every day. That's one big thing, and then writing those down. But just getting like real knowledge out of other things is like massively beneficial too. And then it's just controlling your habits. There's another book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, that really focuses on, doubling down your habits. So naturally we want to gravitate towards like the default, which is like typically like laziness. Like, it's not going to serve me. And then we need to be able to process through. And in the brain, you call this system 1 and system 2 check down. So like your limbic system is trying to process, that's your system 2. If you can absorb information and check down to like a non-emotional play on your choices and really go towards like the habits that are going to serve you, man, it'll change the perspective on how you can perceive the world. And so one of the ways that like I did this personally, and so like we're like, I can just give advice, right, you can, for me, and goes for all men. This is why I'm so open and like, I'm unashamed to say it, but like so many men today want to go towards like porn or sexual images, right? I'll get deep right off the bat with you. They want to go, they want to look at, they want to look at things on Instagram that aren't going to serve them. And then they find themselves floating through Instagram for 10, 15 minutes, women that they're never even going to bang, right? Let's be honest. Like, you're like, there's not
Let's
a
get
chance.
real.
And so then it's like, what is the habit that will serve you? How do you redirect that habit, right? And so one of the ways that I've want to be bilingual, right? That's like, it's a goal of mine. I'm trying to build up my Spanish skill set. And so I downloaded Duolingo. And so the redirect on that for about like 8 years now really has been, in other ways. So I've been practicing Spanish for about 3 years, but that was one redirect. I first did the redirect towards reading, something that was going to serve me. And then the other redirect is, now Duolingo of like, hey, is this serving me? No, it's not. That's system 2 check down. And so how am I redirecting that to something like positive? Well, learning another skill set allows me that's a positive momentum in my life. And so that's one redirect was like, okay, I'm on this Instagram. Well, that's not serving me right now. And I'm going to redirect that by maybe I can absorb another, a few more Spanish words this evening. So, that's just like a basic thing that naturally took me at my worst state, right? But it was a game of inches. I call it that game of inches of like reading, then compounded, right? Everything in life compounds. And so like when I'm making these unhealthy decisions, that one thought, if I have to think about it, is that going to produce fruit? Well, if it's not fulfilling me and elevating me, then it's not going to produce fruit. So how do I reverse that into something that eventually will produce fruit, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, man, you touched on so many good topics, and you kind of touched on what I wanted to ask you about when you talked about the atomic habits. Is what habits are you building in your life that are continually, progressing you forward?
Yeah. So, I mean, something early on, even when I was in real estate, asking quite the right questions is a really, really big and critical thing. So that was one habit that I always had to be like, dude, I don't care if I look dumb. I just need to ask like more questions in order to get more information. Otherwise, I need to find the book that's going to give me that information. So like even going through this health and wellness journey, getting nutritional certifications. A while ago, probably about 12 years ago, I got a personal training certification because I wanted to know more about the body. So like, what are things that I can do to like build those steady habits? And, I've incrementally gotten super in tune with like the human longevity element. But those were daily habit stacks that led me to where I am today, right? So like it first started out with a 30-second cold shower. That was super uncomfortable, but then it became a daily habit, right? That then turned into like a minute to a minute and a half cold showers before I even turned the water warm. So then what did that turn into? Well, maybe I could pump out 50 push-ups before I get in the shower, right? So I would do 50 push-ups before I got in the shower. Now I do 100 crunches and 100 flutter kicks before I get in the shower. It's like a rule for me. So those are the things that are habit stacks that I do as small micro habits that eventually compound, right? So like I know with volume, I can keep my, six pack. So I do that because I naturally want it. Another small habit that's so easy, right? Because I'm a 39-year-old guy with a family. I don't let my family sit down after dinner. Why? Because your glycemic levels spike and then you crash. You can lower your glycemic index by just walking, right? So if I'm like, I have a bunch of carbs in my body, I'm not going to have to like fall asleep because we walk around the block and we talk and it's a great gratitude walk. So, these small habits that I formed like over the years now have made a significant impact on my relationship with my wife and my children. And then on the outset of that is like, what is it doing for my body? Well, I do these like micro habits that are ultimately aiding my body as well. Then, reading is another thing. Again, I don't read for like hours on end every day, but But if you read like 10 pages every day for 100 straight days, you know how many pages you just read, right? You've read 1,000 pages. So that's just a big, those are small micro habits that if you can, this is the problem with most people, right? They aren't consistent, right? They give up on it, right? It's just like working out, right? I can do it for a day or two, maybe even for a couple weeks, but then it stops. So the big thing is keeping consistent. Those things compound. Eventually you have body transformation, you have mind transformation. Jim Quick always says it, when the body moves, the mind grooves. So that's a big thing, is like, how are we working out? Can you fit in that, 20-minute to 40-minute workout of hyper intensive activity every day? Get yourself out of breath, because that eventually will compound.
And there's no easy fix, right? There's no easy fix to help you. It's so tough to be consistent, and there's just no other way around it. It's just got to swallow the frog, right? You just got to do that first initial couple push-ups that will lead to the 50 and eventual 150 that you're doing in the shower.
No, hands down, you bring up a good point. This was just something I was talking about with my buddy today, is that, so many people, because this is the social world we live in, want it tomorrow, right? Everything's tomorrow. Give it to me tomorrow. But like, you don't find gratitude in getting something tomorrow. You find gratitude in going through the journey, but staying present with that journey, right? And so like putting in the work is where you're going to find the most fulfillment, but you got to be present with the work. And then the long game is the outcome. And so what I try to do as much as physically possible is literally put myself into my 85-year-old body. Like I try to just put myself into that mindset of that 85-year-old body, of like, will my 85-year-old self thank me for what I did today? Right. And so those small things that I do, like, if I'm 85 years old and I had an opportunity to spend some time with my daughters, right? Would he thank me? Like, yeah, he would thank me for that, because like I spent that time with my daughters. That was good. Like that decision-making, that level of discernment changes when you can fast forward life and really put that imagery of your 85-year-old self. Would he thank me for that? Right. That's always a good question, because you're playing the long game. So many people.
It reminds me.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, it just reminded me so much of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which is the book that changed my life. And I highly recommend people to pick up a book or an audiobook to learn something new in a nonfiction way. Because that's what he talks about, is thinking with the end in mind. Is just like, would you picture yourself? He talks about picturing yourself at your own funeral, and what are the characteristics that people are saying about you? And can you make those changes today? And I love what you're saying of picturing yourself as your 85-year-old man. Will I hate myself or be filled with regret, or will I thank myself? And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, that's good. Jesse Itzler said the other day, this is pretty good. Like, how are you building your life resume, right? Don't wait to build your life resume. And he said it like, not your business resume, your life resume, right? So that's the season I'm in right now. And I have to look at it. How am I building my life resume? How am I empowering my wife every day? What am I doing to like serve my kids? It's just an act of service and empowerment. And that's really what it comes down to, is like building that life resume of experiences, with the people you love. And man, if you can compound that, you're living that fulfilled life. So of course you need to make money. Of course you need to do these things. You want to do it with the people you love. So like, be super strategic. I've definitely gone through the ups and downs of making the wrong decisions, of getting bad business partnerships or whatever it might be. But like, how are you building your life resume? Because that's ultimately what you want to see at 85. You're like, man, I did a damn good job.
And what are the things, I think you said it earlier that you weren't ready to marry your wife, right? Earlier. What are the things that you did to prepare yourself, or maybe make yourself a better husband? And then, what was that switch look like, and how did that feel?
No, thanks for coming back around to that. That was actually a pivotal point in my story. So, I've grown up pretty much faith-based. I have some amazing parents. And one of the things is like, I wasn't in tune with God, in my mid-20s. I can't say the same now, man. Now I'm on, it's just, I live this like amazing life. I'm actually taking some guys through an abiding study right now. But like in my mid-20s, it just like wasn't a thing for me. I wasn't super spiritual. Went to church, but it was a box checker. I was just a box checker, like going to the gym, unless, you just check the box. But it was one of those times where I had to look at the lens of who I was as a person. And I looked literally, I was like, man, I'm an ugly person. Like, this is freaking all about me. I don't feel right. And that's something that Ed Milet talks a lot about. It's like, we're always chasing a feeling, whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
right? We're chasing a feeling. It's not even, we want to be jacked and ripped. It's the feeling of that, what that gives us. Right. And so, that feeling was awful. When I was 26 years old, it was awful. I do not feel like good about it. I still, even feeling back, it was just a nasty feeling. And, when you live that cynical life, it's just like, you don't like, where's the momentum going, right? You want to chase momentum in your life. And so I feel like God just impressed on me. I don't know why. I can't tell you I was like close, or I could even hear his voice, or I was even reading the Bible that much. But for some reason, something was pushing to me like the Celebrate Your Recovery program at church. And so, I thought it was for a bunch of drug addicts. I'm like, dude, like, this ain't for me. Like, I'm not a drug addict. Like, I don't use. But at the end of the day, I did deal like with my eyes. I did not have control over my eyes. Sexual lust was like a big thing, right? All these things like compiled, and I just felt like an ugly person. I was like, you know what? I just married her. And I was like, if I'm gonna make this work, then I'm gonna go in the Celebrate Recovery program and at least give it a try. And so I remember like that first meeting, like I went into, and I think I was quiet, but like I sat there and I was like kind of shaking my head. I'm like, do I want to be here? I felt like, it was one of those that like, you're almost like an outsider. You're kind of like judging everyone around you. You're trying to read out the room. Um, yeah. So I was like resistant towards it. But, one of the things was I stayed consistent with that. I think it was about 3 months. So we went through like kind of a 3-month program. I remember meeting on, this is about 13 years ago at this point, but meeting on Thursdays. And so we just like sat down, and it was the first time, like, I read this like Bible. It was a Celebrate Recovery Bible, but it had a bunch of like stories in it that I could understand, like that were real life examples of people going through hurts and trying to reconciliation, redemption on the other side. And so I read this whole thing like through. I'm like, no way. I'm like, dude, like, I want to live a better life. Like, I don't want to live like this. And so that was really the encompassing moment of me then stepping into my marriage with a completely different mindset. And so one of the things that was like impressed upon me was to make sure that I can control my words and my thoughts with encouraging words and thoughts like towards my wife. And so I just started encouraging her, like literally every day. It was that like the super basic. It was, hey, thank you. Hey, I'm super grateful for you. Hey, you're beautiful. Like all these other things. But like that then led to one day, and then I did it another day, and then I did it another day. And then, I'm like, dude, I'm looking at her a little bit differently. She, my heart's like changing towards her. It's like softening up. I'm like re-engaging into our relationship. Like, this is fun. And then just God's blessed us immeasurably. We've had our seasons, right? It's not like I don't fight with my wife. I do, mainly because of me. I'll forget some stuff and do these things. But the reality is, if you got a relatively probably young audience, if I could just encourage anything, man, when you're stepping into that level of marriage, make sure you're 100% committed and you're encouraging, right? One of the big things for me nowadays is like to really show what an alpha male looks like. And that's having an insane amount of confidence, but also having this like humble and humility behind it that says like, I can be a servant, And so my wife knows I lead the family. I lead the household. I am the alpha. I do have power, but it's controlled power, that I have a level of humility and confidence that I'm willing to hear her point of view. Actually, how about, babe, how about you take the lead in this situation? How about you make the decision, and empowering her in that capacity? And that's really what, has galvanized our relationship and allowed us to grow and just blossom. So yeah, I have about 12 years of marriage in me, and
That's awesome, man.
Every second of it.
Did you have to, when you first started, saying those things, did you have to like check your pride at all, or like humble yourself? And like, how did that feel?
I had to, without a doubt, man. It was for sure. There were struggles at times. I definitely had a lot of pride built up in me. So there was always that checkpoint. But then it goes back to, again, like where number one, where is that coming from? And then, is that going to serve me? And so that's a question, like, just to, always coming back to, is this like pride serving me? And like, how does it make me feel? And if it doesn't make me feel the way I want it, like, how can I just change it? Right. And so then life becomes that balance of like, no, actually, I want to make this better decision because this is the way it makes me feel. And typically when you're serving people, you feel really good about it. Right. And so if you're making other people's lives easier and better, like, you feel really good about that. And so that's one of the controllables for me. That's a main priority is specifically like, what are the controllables? And the controllables are my household. So my wife being like most important. I even tell like that in front of my kids, like, I love you girls, but I picked mom first. Like, she was first. So I love her more, just naturally.
That's awesome.
Like, I didn't even get to pick you, you just, and you're a derivative. So anyways, that's one of those things where pride is going to come in play. Pride's also going to come in play in business, like taking this back into the entrepreneur piece. Cause like when you get in business partnerships, like there's like, it's a marriage at the end of the day. And then how does that look? Right. So, I've had a couple like bad business relationships, but then it's also like, one thing I will never do is burn bridges. Like, I don't burn bridges. Life's too short. And there's enough money out there that, I don't need to burn bridges. And like, if it's about money to you, I can give up, because like money is that form of energy. And yeah, I want to make a heck of a lot of it. But at the end of the day, it's never to cut somebody down. It's always to lift somebody up and empower. So we aren't about like just chasing money. We're about chasing people first.
That's a perfect segue into your entrepreneurship and your business that you got going in full field. And can you tell me, how did it get started, and what's your mission behind it?
Yeah, how it got started was we actually started a podcast with my partner. I was in the nutritional space and still am. We're coming out with some more products with Nutritious. But like that, my business partner and I, he had a clinic. And he still has that clinic. So Leslie Functional Health, as I mentioned earlier, we came together on our podcast front, and we're just like, we want to serve guys. Like we need that in this world. Guys are becoming softer and softer. We just truly believe that. We don't have enough strong men, in the world of just really taking authority and standing up for some things when they need to stand up. And so, and being called out, like I can be called out all day. My wife calls me out, but like, and being able to take that without like being defensive. Right. Like I'm that confident that like, I don't need to take offense. So just building men up, but like, how do you do that? And one of the ways I honestly, I'm a big believer is staying physically fit. Like every man, out there should be an element of like some physical fitness. Like I truly believe physical fitness is that we are the leaders of our household. And so we need to model that. And so anyways, we go off of basically six pillars. So mind, spirit, work, fuel, movement, sleep are like kind of the pillars that we go off of as far as how we optimize and dial those pillars in. And so we just break those down for guys. So we have a coaching program that we built out where we've been coaching some guys, just getting them optimized. We use a number of different measures, but like we program workouts in their app, nutritional guidance. And then we just kind of talk about, and they're vulnerable with kind of where they're at in life and how they're looking to get better, and give them guidance in that area. And then, uh, and then we all have modalities, right? So like in Tampa, there's a clinic, and that's, for people that are in pain, be either back pain, soft tissue, anything. And we have infrared saunas and cold plunges. So we're building that out, stabilizing that, and looking to grow and scale that. So that's those are just some of the things we're working on right now, in terms of really building up that community, and then really making a strong footprint within the Tampa Bay area with our brick and mortar.
That's awesome. I recently got a coach for myself, a trainer that's, put me on a plan and on a workout plan as well. And that's all in cool and everything. But I think one of the things I value the most is our weekly calls. And just like, he can tell when I'm bullshitting, and he just tells me straight to my face and checks me. And I'm totally open to, for that, because I need that. It's hard to discipline yourself. I think any man needs someone to check them, whether it's your wife or, someone that's important to you, that tells you straight up, because we all need help. And I don't think you can do these things on your own.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with you. I believe in the power. We take more of a community approach instead of a one-on-one, where we want like high level guys together. So we have a little Discord where we communicate throughout the week, and then we have calls too. But yeah, you gotta have guys calling you out, and that coachable attitude is huge. That's going to serve you well, because just being able to be coached, I have a trainer, right? And that's one big thing for me, is that I want to be trained, because I want to constantly push myself. So that's huge for you. And people need to call you. Hey man, are you pushing hard enough? What are you doing? How you doing this area? Like those are crucial in terms of, stepping into the uncomfortable. That's big. Is stepping into the uncomfortable.
Now, do you have an ideal person that you're looking to reach out to, or, or and vice versa? Is there someone that's like, maybe that doesn't fit right for the program, or are you looking for everyone?
I mean, who we can talk to, right? Specifically, is I talk to dads, guys that are dads, you know what I mean? That kind of know that realm. Those are just, I'm in that arena. I know how to operate and navigate. I know how to get workouts in when you have kids. It's just different. It's a different life, right? Completely different life when you have kids. And so how are you properly modeling that is a big thing. So we mainly go after dads. Our main target audience at the end of the day is likely going to be north of 35, likely even north of 40, right? That is that. But I mean, then there's like also those early dads that they're like, I need help, right? There's a bunch of guys that reach out to me like, I need help, or I'm planning to be a dad, and I need to be proactive and hop onto this before I get to the point where it's just like things get out of hand. So, but our main target audience is going to be, that dad. He's likely going to have, his kids are going to be north of 4 years old, where he has a little bit more autonomy with his time. He can get away for, 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever it might be. I'm a big believer in working out in front of your kids where they see you. So I have a bunch of equipment at home. My kids see me working out. My daughter knows how to sling around a kettlebell, because of the fact that I
awesome.
work out in front of them. So that's a big thing for me. I have a bunch of guys like that are in it. They have young kids and they can't leave home. And, so like, how do we modify that where we can get your training in at home? So we have a bunch of kettlebell programs in for them. I'm in the season of life where I can hit the gym. But 2 years ago, I was not in that season, right? So like I was working out heavily with kettlebells, waking up super early in the morning, getting hyper-focused workouts in. Now I'm in a different training season, right? So like I'm more bulking, I'm stacking, I'm putting some weight on, but I can get in the gym for an hour and 15 minutes. So it's just the seasonality of life and how we can really optimize that season to make sure that you are, you're setting yourself up for that longevity.
And what is nutritious, and who is it for?
Yeah, nutritious, pretty much like same avatar in terms of like who we're looking. We're building the community around. We definitely pulled back on that a little bit. So I will be tell you like I shit the bed on my first product. Spent a lot of money. Didn't really do a heck of a lot of due diligence in terms of how much the product cost and then how much we could sell it to the end consumer. We did identify a pain point with like kind of in the running industry. A lot of people are using gels, and so I created these like cool pouches. They're actually really good. We don't sell them anymore, but they're quick carbohydrates, right? So like when you're on a run, you're on a long distance run, it's great to get like starchy complex carbohydrates instead of taking hyper processed goos in. These are minimally processed. This one's sweet potato, and then we had a banana acai. But when I did that, right, I went super high end on them. They were extremely costly to produce, and we just didn't gather a ton of momentum early on. And so that was a little bit of failure. So what I decided to do recently was I hired on a consultant, and I just wanted to like be more muscle centric in terms of like what we were proposing to an audience. And so we're working on a few things right now. I got these awesome hats made. I like friggin' love them. These are like waterproof hats that they're really, really sick. 5 panels. So I got these hats made. So I got some swag, but we're working on some other products right now to launch, to our audience. But we're looking for feedback first. So we want to get feedback from our audience in terms of like what they like, what they want, what are pain points. So that's ultimately how I'm kind of operating in the new season with Nutritious, is really just to serve pain points and hear from a consumer what they actually want, need, and desire, instead of trying to make a product and telling them what they need. So, anyways,
And what? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You had one more thing to say.
no, it was a good entrepreneur journey. It took a lot of money to make that mistake, but maybe we'll come out with the pouches in the future when we have a bigger audience. But anyways, it was a great learning exercise.
That's what I was gonna ask you next. Is anything else that you could pass on as an entrepreneur to someone maybe starting up with something, maybe a clothing brand, maybe something that they're trying to come up with as a product. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, number one, I would ask, and don't ask people Ask, go to places where you think you would want to hang out with people, and maybe you have like there's like an audience that you think you might have a good idea, and you could pitch it by them, or just ask them, hey, what are you guys looking for? Like, what do you guys need? Like, those are really, really good questions to ask. But the most important, right? The most important is don't be afraid to fail. Like, failing is a learning exercise. Only you're gonna fail in life over and over again, but so many people go through life and are like fearful of failure, and that's just one of the things that I kind of had to brush aside and be like, there's so many people out there that likely want me to fail, right? So many people, right? That it's like those friends that you thought were friends. They want you maybe to succeed, but they don't want you to succeed like that much, right? If you succeed a little bit that's a little bit too far. We're praying that he doesn't succeed and he fails now. So like those aren't going to be your obviously true friends. You got to find out, who wants you to succeed and genuinely, and who wants you to genuinely succeed. But the, that failure is part of the process. There's just a ton of failure, and then it's just like how you pick yourself back up, you learn from it, and then you're able to rebound. And that's one of the biggest exercises is you just got to get accustomed to failure, because that's going to happen over and over again. Just be open-minded, learn and grow.
Man, I love that. As we wrap up here, where can we send people to if they want to get connected with you, if they want to learn more? I know you have the Full Field podcast. Is that right?
Yeah, so we got the Full Field podcast. I'm on Instagram at human.optimizer. My partner is at Full Field Doc. We collab on a lot of stuff. Our brick and mortar is called Alessi Functional L. So if you're ever in Tampa Bay, you want to hop in the infrared or get in the cold plunge or need some chiropractic care, please come see us. And then, the last thing is our website's actually coming up live here in about the next week or so. So that's going to be fullfield.com. That'll have all of our bios on it, all of our offerings, and and all of our free stuff that we love giving away.
That's awesome. What are the main things that you guys talk about on your podcast?
We've predominantly focused on longevity. So human optimization, that's going to be based off of our 6 pillars, but it's human longevity is what we focus on. We'll bring in a faith component. So we've had some like high level pastors on there too, but mainly what we talk about is some nerdy stuff. And that's specifically, how like muscle growth, how you train it, nutrition, fuel, what you're putting in your body, sleep. And then, the big thing is we love talking about recently is just how men are digressing in testosterone and how we can use TRT to replace testosterone. So I talk from personal experience. My testosterone was plummeting, and so that's something that I'm building that up. So that's not for everybody. So I got a cool kind of story behind. I get a lot of blood work done, but naturally those are some of the things we talk about. We get real nerdy on some stuff and try to stay on the trends that are hitting the now. So we keep all of our audience up to date on again, human longevity.
I love that. Final thing here. If there was one thing that you can put on a billboard for everyone to see, what would you have it say?
If there was one thing that I could have put on a billboard for everyone to see, what would it
could
say?
Be a sentence. It could be a phrase. It could be, whatever you'd like.
One of I would say just coming from the perspective of, I love, when people live happy lives, just, be happy,
Be happy.
Be happy.
Yeah.
So and one of the ways I find that is obviously, I don't push my faith on anyone, but, I find my faith through Jesus and in the Word of God. So that's one of the big things for me is it gives me fulfillment in my life to wake up and just be better than I was yesterday. So maybe I would change it to that. Be better than you were yesterday.
Be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. And I appreciate your story, Matt.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Take care.
See you, brother.